Two, one, and here we are. AI Hackerspace, June 20th. We what a week. I guess it's not a great week if you're into security, but what a week what we're having. Yet again, a spectacular week in AI. Every week is crazier than the last. At least for me, it is. Um, so we've got a great show lined up today. Rob, who do we got?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff going on. We've got the Paris event now is on the map officially for Monday the 23rd. And Kelsey Cole, Vincent, and Emad are putting that together. That should be a lot of fun. We've got the New York City crew that are planning out the first event. They're going to be joining us today. They got a couple tools to share, or a tool to share as well. And then we'll get a recap from Mondweep and Bensa. They've got a heck of a week in London with that panel on sustainable AI development at Greenwich University. And then their hackathon, which has been running since Wednesday. So we'll get an update from them. Then as well, we've had a lot of help the last few weeks from our longtime member, Dimple. She's a data and AI engineer out of Edinburgh, Scotland. She's been helping with getting everything together for the guests. And I think we have Miko as well. Is that right, Dimple?
Yeah, Rob. So thank you. We have Miko. He's a long-time member as well, and he has founded seven tech startups with three exits. And he has a new startup, and the mission is to build the infrastructure of the Nordic welfare state with AI. Yeah, over to you, Rob.
Right, wonderful. That's great. I'm really looking forward to hearing how that about this project, Miko. We're going to start the lightning talks probably around 12:20, something along those lines. But it's really clear that Finland gets it, and they're working on some fascinating stuff to sincerely prepare for the imminent arrival of AGI. So that will be fascinating. So that's the lineup today, Roof.
All right, so it sounds like we got a great show lineup. So some of the originals, we'll try to get everyone in. This week for me has been particularly interesting around swarm-based development. So I've got a bit of a I don't know, obsession might be the right word with applying sort of swarms to various things, and I'm learning a lot about the sort of application of these kind of complex swarms to various types of development and securing and deploying and all kinds of things. But there's a few takeaways that I want to discuss, first and foremost. And it starts with this exploit, which we don't know a lot about. And there's been a massive password breach from the biggest providers of OAuth. And the reason this is kind of worrisome is, if you've ever logged into any website using Google or Facebook or Apple, that means you're trusting these providers to secure your authentication information, right? So then that's why you can log in with one click with your Apple or Google. And it would seem that 16 billion passwords, which is, double the population of the planet, basically, in terms of passwords, was leaked relatively recently. Apparently last month. We're just finding about it now. Well, what's interesting about this, and I have this is all anecdotal, by the way. I've got no proof of who or what or how, so I can only sort of surmise what that potentially could be. But what's interesting is the fact that it's never been easier to hack, right? And this idea mostly has been around concepts of like kitty scripters, right? Get these various tools like Nets, Metasploit and other kind of tools, and then sort of click a few things on your keyboard and see what happens. That's been the traditional approach. But now what we're seeing is we can kind of take that and we can amp that up using these agentic tools that will use these kind of kitty scripting tools, but can also like sort of adaptively look and discover. So what's my sense, and I have no proof of this, but my sense is this exploit is likely one of the first major probably is extensively using AI as a kind of core orchestration of the exploit itself. I have no proof of this. This is just me guessing, but it seems that given the timing, given the things that I'm seeing in the space, it's pretty likely that somewhere, some group of bad guys were probably using, a lot of the same tools that we're using to build and create crazy things for the opposite reasons, right? So what we're experiencing what's probably a sort of first step and will likely be a really interesting few years to come. And just as a note, yesterday actually, I was looking at a one of my projects for a client, and they're basically giving me a hard time. Is this secure? Is this actually doing what you're saying it's doing? And so I'm like, okay. So I pointed the swarm at it and I said, look at this API endpoint, which is actually in the development environment. Not it wasn't even live. And then I let it run for a while. I went off and started talking about other things. And then, 10 minutes later, I came back to the swarm that was basically looking at the development environment and trying to determine whether this thing that we had built was secure. And one of the parts of the swarm had actually decided, without me telling it, to go and explore the sort of rabbit hole where that API led to, and it led to the production site. And then, as part of that process, it actually mapped the entire production environment that they had set up and found all their exploits, and had actually gone in and took advantage of all those exploits without me asking it. And what's interesting, when you look at these tools if you were to say go exploit ABC site, it's going to say no. Sorry, I can't do that, right? HAL 2000 or whatever. But the virtue of the fact that I started with a sort of development environment, and I said this is an ethical sort of pen testing structure, it seems to have like given it the sort of okay to go and do all kinds of bad things. So basically, it's a semantic description that or a sort of guide that I gave it that allowed it to say, okay, I can move beyond my own sort of limitations and things I'm not allowed to do, which is crazy and scary. Needless to say, I think I might have ruined their weekend by showing them, a whole variety of exploits. And this was in a highly regulated space, just to add the cherry on top, which got me thinking it's a brave new world to say the least. So let me show you a few things here that I'm working on for those who haven't been up to the latest and greatest. So last week I created this. Oh, let me share my screen quick. I created an abstraction layer essentially to Claude Code. I called it Claude Flow. Notice I'm at I'm version 72. That's because I wasn't paying attention at one point and it did 20 freaking versions when it decided to publish each incremental change as a version update to npm. That's another side effect of these swarms is because I'm spawning, in this case, sometimes 50 concurrent agents to do things all at once. You've got this sort of you sort of different. It's hard to guide it. Well, not hard to guide. It's sometimes hard to see what's actually happening within the structure of each one of the swarm elements. When I'm doing concurrent development, like Brew Code or Cursor and those types of sort of sequential development, I'm able to see generally what's happening because it's doing this, then it's moving to the next thing. Maybe it's spawning a subtask, but I've got the ability to really understand kind of what's happening because it's sequential, or at least it's a single thread. Where when I start implementing these swarms, there's especially when I do large swarms, like this idea of a 50 agent swarm, it's hard to know that, agent number 33 has decided to go rogue. So the one thing that I've learned, I think, this week is certain tasks are better suited for this type of environment. So early development or complex development is actually really good too. For example, earlier this week, a storage company hired me for literally an hour because I do a lot of these kind of hour projects. And they like we have this old school storage system was literally built in PHP, which was interesting. And as you guys probably know, I'm not a huge fan of PHP. Nothing against Drupal. They still hate me for porting it to JavaScript. But nonetheless, I pointed that system at legacy code. We're talking probably around 50,000 lines of code, so a decent amount of code and significant amounts of technical depth. And I pointed and said, basically rebuild this for me using Rust, and their latency in PHP was high. Obviously, it's PHP; it's not great. So they were looking around 300 milliseconds for a request, and I managed to get that down within an hour to less than 2 milliseconds using a Rust-based full implementation of their legacy system, which basically means that it would use the same API and SDK sort of structure. So anyone that had previously deployed it would just kind of magically work. That literally took an hour. So I started looking at like what kind of output can I do in this time frame? And then I discovered a tool that allows me to sort of measure some of this stuff. So there's a tool that I found earlier that allows me to sort of look at my Claude token monitor, and which is interesting, and it tells me things like burn rates. This it always says tokens exceeded max limit. I obviously am not exceeding the limit, so ignore that. But what's interesting is I think this is pretty accurate in terms of what I'm doing. So in this case, I did 272,000 tokens. This is a little project I was working on earlier. Basically, it was a trading system that I was building. But I was curious about sort of how it was working. Oh, let me get some clickly clacks here. I'm just gonna you guys. All right. Sorry, I'm muting everyone. All right. So what's interesting is I did some benchmarking to sort of see like what's the most I can possibly crank out in the run of an hour. So I'm able to comfortably do around 500,000 lines of code in an hour. And when I say 500,000 lines of code, 500,000 lines of usable code, not just garbage spaghetti that doesn't work, but usable functional code that passes tests. That is an incredible amount of information. I mean, you think about 500,000 lines. Let's put that into context for a moment. According to, developer guides and stuff, and regardless, they're saying that the average developer puts out somewhere between 20 lines of code a day as a professional developer. So let's crank it up. Let's say that now with Copilot, you're doing 50 or 100 lines of code. That means 500,000. I don't even know what the exact number is, but it's orders of magnitude more than the typical developer could do, in a day. We're doing in an hour. This is like, in some ways, probably 10 years of work that we're cranking out in an hour and using based approaches. And this is all for 200 bucks. Now, a couple things to note. For those that are interested, I'm just going to do a quick crash course again for those that want to know. So there's you have to get it installed. What there's a repo I created. Let me just jump to that repo quick. Oops, it's gonna let me do that. Yeah. So Claude Code Flow. I created Claude Test. This gives you the quick sort of step-by-step on what you need to do. So this is just a little repo I set up to test my stuff when I start. So you got to install the Claude Code. Now there's an important part of the process that people seem to get stuck on when they're using this for the first time, and that is the dangerously allow. I've already run this, so you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a command. Before you run Claude Code, you need to go in here and run the help command. So you've already installed it, and you're going to do help. You need to go here and run the dangerously allow. If you don't do that, you're going to get an error, and I probably can figure out a way to get to make that error not happen. But basically, it's basically not allowing you to run in dangerously mode until you sort of there's this like UI interface that says, "Are you sure you want to run dangerously allow?" Well, obviously, I'm sure. I'm putting in the freaking tag here. But anyway, it asks you again, and if you don't do this right off the start, so Claude dangerously allow. And the other thing you want to do, if you ever are running a swarm and you go to bed and it stops at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and you want to resume where it left off, you can also add the -C, and that allows you to continue where you left off. So you basically invokes the previous session. So this is a particularly useful component. You can see here that it's continuing. It says here that I had an API error I need to implement. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So now I see that it's created my test infrastructure. It's created a new collection. It's testing. It's doing my market information, and it's doing integration. So this is a trading algorithm. I won't go into details because I probably shouldn't be showing this. But anyway, we're going to go in here, and I'm going to quickly create a swarm. Create a 5-agent swarm. And by the way, I can also do this by oops, I can do slash. You can see that I've got different options I've added here, but I'm not going to bother with those right now because I'm just going to do it. So I'm going to create a 5-agent swarm using batch tool. Now, the other interesting thing, so the way I can create these agents is using batch tool. All references to batch tool have been removed from the Claude Code documentation. I looked yesterday, I couldn't find it anywhere. So I'm hoping they don't remove it completely from the tool because that would suck because I'm really enjoying these swarms. But the batch tool feature is the secret sauce to making these swarms work. Basically allows you to create multiple instances and have them run in parallel. So if you want to invoke a swarm, really all you need to do is tell it to use batch tool. Now in this case, I'm saying create a 5-agent swarm using batch tool to fix, and I'm just going to grab this here, the fix this. All right. So because I'm continuing.
On that, Ruben, on that, I did a bunch of testing yesterday, and yeah, all the documentation is definitely gone. I couldn't find it like you, but I tested Claude Code, and it's still in the tool's still there. You can't see it, but you can actually reference it.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm like. It's exactly what I'm doing right now. So now you see here it says swarming. I love that. And and I've got my thinking mode enabled. The thinking mode I've set to 20,000 tokens. That seems to be about right, and it allows it to ponder a little longer. It works really well. You can also tell it to think harder or do like ultra thinking, and it thinks forever. Depending on what the problem you're trying to solve, you might want to get it to ponder a little longer. I like that. That sounds like a poem, but the key when you want it to ponder longer, you might have use it for certain things like algorithms you might want to design or solving really hard problems. Now you see the reason I know it's working is you can see each of these tasks is being spawned independently. Now if all's well, we should see five units. Whoa, I'm not sure where that came from, but now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm not sure what the blue thing on my screen I'm seeing is, but hey, Chris, how's it going? Good, welcome back. All right, so now when you spawn large swarms, you're going to see this, and this happens because I've continued a previous setup, and it's going to flicker for a bit. This generally goes away, and it doesn't mean it's not working. It's a little aggravating, and this is back to the thing I was telling you about where you can't actually see what's happening particularly well. Now I've got a status mode here. Just jump. I'm going to jump through this one for a sec. Any idea how I clean that blue thing off my screen? This is a first.
My Chris Royce put it on there. Chris, are you able to erase that?
Am I the ones to see that? Or is it
No. It's
yeah.
We also
anyway, it's okay. We'll have to ignore the blue line. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, there's also to give a little bit of introspection. What I've done is and I'm still working on this. Is a work in progress for anyone. You do Claude Flow, and you can do help. And in this case, we can, if we see how we get different options. We've got the ability to look at various statuses, so we can go to the memory, and then we can see the various queries. We can do lists, and this will help you sort of get an idea of what's happening. I've also got this for agents and tags and types. So in this case, oh, I didn't do memory. Let's go back. Let's do memory. So this is showing all the different things. So my memory system is actually the most rudimentary memory system I could possibly invent. There's no vectors. Well, I've got an option for SQLite, but generally it's just JSON. And of all the things I tried, the JSON structure was actually the best. It worked. It was simple. It was easy. It allows the system to sort of understand what's happening. Oh, it looks like my swarm crashed my instance. Let's go back here and see what's happening.
And
all right.
Ruben, do you have the orchestrator running in one of the terminals?
Yes, it's running right here. So this is, you can see it running.
This is
the system. The system invokes the orchestrator itself as part. So Claude Code invokes the orchestrator and the memory.
So you don't go Claude Flow start. Or
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. And I apologize, guys. I have no idea how to get rid of this blue line, which is a little strange.
The yellow line now.
All right, guys.
Ruben,
yeah.
In your Claude test repository, you laid out the 4 steps, right? Just so that all of us understand, I think there's a bit of variance here. So first step is Claude Code install, which we understand. Obviously, Claude Flow we install. But in order to get started, you said you have to invoke the dangerous permissions. Do you do that from Claude Code for Claude?
Yes, I do. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm gonna just update this quickly. So Errol, let's do it in real time.
It's just
So
a command line option. It's just a command line
yeah,
option.
it's a command line option, right? So here, so the problem is run Cloudflow, start the orchestrator. So what I need to do is I need to add another step. Step 4, we'll make, oops, step 4. And what we need to do here is we need to do Claude, and then we need to do, I think I have this in my memory, so let's grab that. Run dangerously, this one.
Yeah.
And then what you need to do is you need to accept the UI warning message. Then you can run the orchestrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, the problem I'm running into is I'm like kind of working between both. So it's a little bit sometimes I skip a step here or there. Oh, I don't like the way that looks. I'm gonna fix that too. Let's add some brackets around that.
And once you start orchestrator, does it invoke Spark under the hood anyway? Basically, the Spark methodology. That's
Yes.
step number 5.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've been the other thing we can do here, which is kind of cool, and I'll push this out sometime this weekend or maybe early next week. I've also integrated the MCP feature, so we can go in here and now we've got Claude Flow MCP if you want to integrate it with like Cursor or whatever, and so you can invoke the different get Cursor to do it for you. And the other interesting feature is you can use the Claude Code system as the MCP itself as well, which is kind of a fun little way to interact with it. And if you're interested in doing that, all you need to do is do Claude MCP serve, and then you can do ports and stuff like that. But if you do, I think by default, I think it runs in Studio, and then you do that, and now you're running the Claude MCP server, which you get Claude Code to use Claude Code MCP directly in itself, which is kind of cool. And to see that, I'm doing some work here on the MCP, but I'm going to show you that quick. So in Claude, I'm not running with Dangerous at the moment, but I'm just going to show you what that looks like. It's kind of like a recursive system. All right, so now we're here. Now, when you have MCPs, you can go here and you can do MCP. And then you see how I've got Claude Flow, and I haven't published this yet, so you'll have to use my dev version. But in this case, I can go here, then I can view tools. I can see all my different modes, and each of these modes can then be invoked directly within the sort of swarm itself. So you can do swarm. It's like I don't know what you call it, like subtasks within the swarm. It's kind of, and so the addition of MCPs within the swarm really kicks up the capabilities. And back to my original comment about hacking and exploitation, that is the part that's most worrisome, because you can create the swarm that invokes various CLIs and MCPs, and then you've got the sort of you're the master of the universe at that point. It can do anything anywhere.
Hey,
And
on that, Ruben, so you only run one instance of Claude Code as an MCP, and then
no, I run it. Each instance uses its own MCP. It's magic. I'm not sure how exactly it figures out, but it just works.
Because that option runs Claude Code as an MCP server.
Yeah, it runs Claude Code as in. Oh, here's interesting. My swarm just crashed my my instance. So this happens. Oh, it looks like it finished anyway. But here, this is how you recover from a crashed instance. If you guys are running too many VS codes yeah. So this is going to happen. And this is probably a byproduct of the fact that this is a trading algorithm I'm building, which is probably just putting a lot of CPU stress on it. I probably need to switch at this point from a swarm-based implementation to a sequential implementation. So there's two issues I have. I'm probably just using a code space that doesn't have enough RAM, most likely. But when this does happen, I'll show you exactly how to recover from it. So it's not a big deal. And I'm going to add better recovery tools as well here, but I got too much stuff on my plate. All right, hopefully it comes back to life here in a sec. because this is here we go. Okay. All right. Give it one more second. There's as I said, the -C command is the part that essentially allows you to recover. So you're going to do Claude -C, and then I'm going to grab that dangerously overly complicated command, and then I'm just going to do that. And that allows you to recover. There's also a session ID that I might start using as part of the memory. I haven't actually included that in my memory that allows you to have multiple sessions and remember. So if you're running multiple terminals, you can do that. All right, so that looks like it actually didn't quite finish. So I'll just type in continue, and it'll
Okay.
continue where it left off.
Nice.
Room. Quick question for you. I've noticed, you kind of go for fives, like five or 50. Like how do you decide on how many agents or how many unique agents you want to have going in a swarm? Like, have you
I
ever put in
didn't.
5,000 and seen what happened?
Yeah, I did. Of course, I did.
Of
And
course, I know. So
yeah, it crashed badly. It got
okay.
to about 150 and everything sort of stopped. But so it did attempt there. I think I know how to do 5,000. I would have to have multiple $200 Claude
Yes.
Max accounts, and then what I would do is use Tmux, whatever how you pronounce that, and then I'd create multiple instances, probably a VS Code swarm, if you guys remember that VS Code swarm system I built a couple months ago. And then I'd have multiple VS Code instances or multiple terminals or multiple containers running, and then I'd orchestrate all of them. I totally want to do like the Guinness Book of World Records for swarms. Yeah, no, I
That'd be
don't
awesome.
want to. I don't want to spend like $200 times 5 or whatever, or times 100. But yeah, it's totally doable. The other thing,
And
so
all of them building guardrails.
oh, well, there, yeah, taking over the web. The other thing you should note, the reason I did 5 and not 10 or 20, 5 seems like all my tests, it's the optimal amount of agents that bounces, not maxing out my account, so I can actually have multiple projects running concurrently. So this trading system I was showing you and other projects I'm working on. And I saw a little improvement going beyond 5. Like in certain things, like if I was doing like a GPU cluster or something, having 20 concurrent agents orchestrating like my Hugging Face cluster probably would be okay. But for most things, I saw zero improvement using 10 versus using 5. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make 5 the default because most people have no idea, and I just make it easy for you. That was my entire thinking.
Hey, Proof, how do you measure improvement? You say so. Is it just subjective, or you have some kind of metric?
I get benchmarks. So I was it last month? I can't remember, but I integrated the SWE bench tool that basically is a tool that allows you to measure the performance of the software engineering agents. And then I used the swarm against that agent. And by the way, I got 100% on that SWE bench. I didn't fail once. So and then what I did is I said, how many of these can I do concurrently? And then I just kicked it up a notch, and I started doing 50 or whatever, and then I tried to do like 5,000. And it's funny, Alex's point, I do seem to like 5s, but yeah. The other interesting thing, 100% completion on SWE bench. It never failed once.
Nice. I'm gonna take us to the speaker component, their guest component, Roof. Let me see if that's good.
Let's go.
All right. So first off, we got Willie V3 and the New York City crew are with us. Hey Willie, hey Jed, hey guys. You're on mute there.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Can you see us all in the awesome room that Zohar provided us with at Kaltura?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Wood paneling.
This is Andy Warhol's original workshop.
Wow.
Right? Pretty dope. So we're here making some art. All right. A couple of weeks ago, oh guys, this is the first time we've all gathered in person too. This is our first like planning meeting. If we can get a little Hurrah. I know we're all like developers and like introverted and stuff, but
Gotta get one of these posters.
yeah, right. So we're pretty excited here. We're gonna get together and plan our first event and hopefully get some good turnout here in New York. So that's that. For my demo, guys, a couple of weeks ago, you all saw me share a prototype, really terminal-based application that was hooked up and running and writing MIDI code and running it through like these like old like files and stuff, like SF2 files and like pretty cool stuff. But I did a little bit more exploring and I found this library called Sonic Pi. And there's a whole bunch of other libraries too. But some people told me about Sonic Pi. I forget how I heard about it. But anyway, so I landed on Sonic Pi and it ended up being really cool. So I made this awesome little app that you have to download Sonic Pi first. So if anybody's gone on sonicpicomposer.com and tried to use it, it doesn't work. You only have to run. I just made that website because I was like having fun and I tried to reach out to the guy, but he never responded. So whatever. I hope he's a cool guy. If anybody knows him, you should hook me up. Sam or something like that. So anyways, let's hear the first thing. I hope I'm sharing sound. Oh, I'm probably not. Hold on. Do this. Audio.
Oh, wait, can we mute that one? Yeah, can we mute this one? Because I'm gonna have to play audio from my computer. No, one second. Let me just share.
That works.
Well, it's either echo or nothing, I guess.
I love feedback loops, right?
Yeah.
And you can share with audio, I think, in Zoom. And by the way, we're looking to move away from Zoom probably next month or so to some other Riverside or something like that.
Yeah, that should be great. Sonic Pi Composer.
Robert, you're not on a car. That's great to see.
Well, yeah, no. Home base. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, did we lose the audio? I kind of like watching these guys moving their camera around.
Yeah. There was a friend of mine attended a lecture at online at Berkeley, and in the first hour of the 3-hour event was a fellow staring into his laptop trying to fix the audio. Like infamous.
That's art.
Yeah.
It's like in our events in London, we've never managed to. It's second event. I think luckily this time we got a recording, but we never seem to get the sound right on our live casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, little background. Guy Bieber, who is on this call, he and I we used to work at the Citrix, R&D lab to do like video conferencing for their various web conferencing technologies, and we spent, I don't know, many a day trying to figure out that problem, but
Yeah.
we never solved it. But it was fun to be in the R&D lab.
Is this looking like this one's gonna go here, William? Or we can come back too, Willie, after the
It's the demo gods.
it's the demo guys.
Which Greek god is the god of demos? I don't even know.
I can't even hear it in the computer.
Now I can't even hear it now.
It's probably Demolus.
Yeah, Demolus or Demos.
It'll be low key, the god of mischief. Loki.
It's
Loki.
Yeah, I was going for like Roman or Greek, but Norse also works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, we'll come back at the end at the open session. Will it be 3? We're looking forward to hearing the music once you're good to go. Let me see. So, we got a quick update from Mondeweep and Bents. They had just a wonderful week out in London. Rocky, Isaac, Chris Poulter, Mark D. They had an event there at Greenwich University, an important panel, and then their hackathon too. So I'd love to hear the update, Mondeweep, Benson.
Yeah, sure. We basically had we were invited to an event that was going on for the week. On Wednesday, we kind of had a small panel, mainly our group basically, with Rodrigo was organizing it, and some other members from the university. It was a general discussion, more like introduction about our experiences, how we got involved in Agentics and the general potential of it. Then we opened up a hackathon, which we had prepared for. They were focused participation. I think not as much as we'd have hoped for. I think it was different stage and event compared to the previous one, which was at Google. Today we kind of again had a much more closed view where we had some demos back from a couple of the participants about work they had attempted using the frameworks. And then we did a workshop of broadly very basic, starting with basic of Spark, original Spark, to like bits of the Swarm architecture. We also were not, the demo gods went very favorable to us because we did it remote today. But that is the summary. But Benz, please add if I have missed anything, please.
Yeah, the learning is that we shouldn't use Microsoft Teams on live stream events because it kills the GPU completely. But yeah, it was great, and people telling us, the demand for learning and Agentics is incredible. There was a friend of mine from New York even was connecting the live stream, and she didn't know that Agentics exists, and now she's planning to join every Friday. So even if it's local, then it can have a effect globally.
And we intend to actually follow through in the post-event setup. So we would be following through with the university faculty to see like what we can actually do tangibly based on this experience. So that is the main thing that we are actually aiming for. Thank you.
There's several other universities that are interested in collaborating, European universities that are interested in collaborating with you. I'm going to introduce you to. I had a call this morning. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's on this call or not, but with a university out of Heidelberg, Germany, and they're looking to do something to collaborate. So I told them about you and some of the folks like Vincent in France. Lots of collaboration opportunities.
Please do the intro. Thanks. Cool.
I always find it funny just that people haven't heard of Agentics yet. Maybe because I spend my days doing nothing but talking about it. But we're in early days. Like it's barely a thing. It's a thing to us, I guess. But it's 99% of the world's never heard of it.
Incredible. And when is the next London event, do you think?
So
we are planning one in July.
Yeah, amazing.
Mondeep, you have info?
Yeah, I mean, we may have, we don't know the dates, but there is another one. This one is more firm that Ben was talking about, but we are planning one with LBS probably late July or August.
There's the one, yeah. Because Shashi wanted to join the Agentics. He has a London AI meetup group with 150 people, and he's keen on to merge with us.
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Let's do it.
And
fantastic.
Chat here, just since we're on the topic, if you are looking to host an event in your city, you can sign up to be an ambassador on agentics.org/ambassador. So I just put the link in the chat. You might have to scroll up a tiny bit there. So if you think that you or somebody you might know wants to host an event, we're here to help support that. You can message me directly too on Discord, but yeah, we have events popping up all over the world, and just want to make sure y'all have that link. So you do have to become an ambassador in order to kind of get the support that we have here as an organization. So sign up there, and we will process you and make sure that you have everything you need. All right. Thanks
and
amazing.
And remind us, how do you become an ambassador?
So yeah, Alex, I'll just speak to that quick. So that process, you fill out the form, and then we'll have a chance to meet. We'll get on a Zoom call, get a sense of your background, if you've done any event management before, what your thoughts are, and then everything looks like it's in sync. You hold your first event, and if that all goes well, everybody's thrilled and happy, then there's a chapter formation. and then yeah, and then it's off and running. So that's sort of the process.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Vincent, you've got a Paris event on Monday. It was the last second thing. Kelsey's in town. Anything you want to say about Paris?
The keyword is agility, because we learned yesterday that the event was on Monday. And luckily, we have a very nice host. It's a guy who is famous for organizing a very large event in Corsica, a rock festival. He has a nightclub. He has a rooftop space in the heart of Paris. So depending on how many people join, because it's last minute, we may go for the rooftop, 25. Otherwise, it's going to be up to 200 people. And I'm also activating my network there. So let's see. But it's going to be a mix. It's not going to be coding. It's going to be Kelsey doing some form of a keynote on what she did with AI so far and her job with Coca-Cola. She's the mastermind behind the Coke campaigns, you know. And I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build stuff in real time. I have about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'm gonna kind of reverse engineer, you know, what they see and how this happens, right? So a little bit like a light touch roof session, and then we have champagne, of course, because it's Paris, right? So you need to
In the summer, yes.
Yeah. That's the idea.
And last update before we do a next little presentation here. On Tuesday in Toronto, it's Toronto Tech Week. We've got 300 and something people signed up, and I think we only have space for 60, so we'll see how that goes. And so that's gonna, if you're in Toronto and you just ping me or Rob or Brad or anyone in Toronto, and we'll make sure that you're in. Just show up early and help us set up. But it's gonna be crazy. So that's on Tuesday, I think 5:30.
That's right, 5:30 to 8:30. And Rube, I think there's like 128 people on the waiting list, plus the 200 caps. So that's that 338 you're talking about. It's growing by the hour. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
So this is
again,
John Messing. I just want to let you know for Vincent, my son who lives in Paris and a fellow colleague are going to show up for the event on Monday.
Excellent. That's
we're-
3 of us now. Perfect. Bring them more. Bring more.
And John, welcome. I know you're our old school sort of programmer, and love that you're joining us. So thanks for coming on today. All right, Rob,
Right.
who's next?
So next, we've got Miko Alessarela, and I'm really excited to hear about these projects. So Miko's this startup is with the previous CIO of Finland's government infrastructure, and they're working to prepare the nation for the arrival of AGI. You know, Finland seems to get it. They seem to get everything right. So I'm really looking forward to it. Miko, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, can you see my presentation?
Yep.
I think we see Slack or something.
We see,
Are you presenting
we see
your
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah.
Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me try to find the right one from here. So, do you now see the right one?
How to build an AI native public sector.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me do this quick. This company is basically technically started at the beginning of this month, but it went to the register in Finland in April, and then we got all the paperwork and everything ready in May. So I'll tell the story and what we do. So this starts from my history. Of course, I have almost 20 years in AI, having founded companies in Silicon Valley, in Berlin, Germany, and also here in Finland over the years. I got concerned about this lack of understanding in public sector on like this massive transition to AGI. It will probably change everything, you know, in terms of like how governments are funded, how things are run in societies, and now that we basically, I mean, of course, our group here understands that this AGI is imminent, but for the general population, it's still like a myth. I show these government, leaders in the country that
this AGI will change everything, and and in order for us to be able to preserve our welfare society, which basically has yielded the happiest nation on earth for 8 years in a row, we will have to jump onto this bandwagon and implement everything to be ready for this change. So I'll explain them that AI is already able to do everything. It's able to use tools. It's able to memorize everything. And the only thing missing from it to be generally capable of doing almost anything that we can imagine is that it doesn't yet have a world model, which probably will emerge over the next 18 months. And this has caused the internet to basically be filled with AI content. It was 57% the beginning of last year already. It's now probably well over 70 or maybe 80. It's going to be 90% by the beginning of 2026. It also means that the bot traffic on the internet has surpassed human traffic last year. In Western Europe, it's currently over 70%, according to stats. Majority of this traffic, unfortunately, is malicious. So we literally have a bot fest going on in the internet on a daily basis. And now these are the two most important slides of my presentation. So in today's world, like most people still don't use AI to perform their daily work. They only occasionally use it for some tasks. And majority of those who are using AI are using it as a tool, which means that they can achieve some kind of incremental improvement to their productivity. There's a small group of pioneers that are able to more than double their productivity with AI agents. And then there's us, who are basically pushing the boundaries on the world scale. And in order for us to really compete, and in order for us to really build a AI native society, and any organization should be looking like this. Everybody should be at 2x or more productivity levels, and on the top end it should be 10x plus. And if this shift happens, I think these companies and organizations, whether it's be private or public sector, will be able to compete. And my argument in my country is also that if we do this, it's literally the silver bullet to make a massive jump on the productivity, then turn it into GDP growth. So it's an imperative for the whole country to do this. And in order for you to achieve this, you have to understand that this is not a tool. Every time people say that AI is a tool, I say that you are looking for incremental improvements, not transformative changes. You have to understand that agents can do everything. And I also telling to the public sector that they can actually automate the whole decision-making process. There's an insane number of different processes going in the government, like issuing permits, registering companies, issuing social security payments, doing all kinds of things that are currently done by humans. And I said that you can automate it all with AI because these things are based on rules and laws and regulations. The only thing you do is that you start in the step-by-step plan to go towards AI-driven decision-making. And this could yield, like, for example, organizations like the Social Security Administration to basically make decisions on the Social Security payments in minutes rather than in days or in weeks that they're currently doing. So I'm also telling, this is very important in Nordics. You tell that you're jumping into this AI bandwagon. It actually reduces your stress. It doesn't increase it because you are delegating work to agents to focus on the important tasks. And this is an important message because people always see that, hey, I need to double my productivity. I need to triple my productivity. It means that I have no free time. I'm going to be stressed every day and so on. So I'm just telling them the story that it doesn't mean for the human workers any added stress necessarily. It means that they're adapting AI to get all the stressful tasks done. And I'm also telling that if we are able to basically get our citizens into this like multiplier trajectory that I showed in the previous slides, and we will have AI capable citizens and AI native public sector, we can compete and we can survive this. I'm also having like a lot of technical stuff that I don't have time to go into, like how we are building this infrastructure. But yeah, that's in short what we are building. As I said, we started in the beginning of June with the company. We already have won multiple, and this is the fun part. Definitely fun for Ruud to hear. Is that we've won multiple very important government bids on building AI infrastructure for them through doing this AI native transformation against like very large companies as a 2-person startup. And this is very important because the government guys understood that these guys who have done over 100 AI projects in the past, combined with an army of agents, is probably better for them than having 1,000 employees in an organization. Okay.
Miko, you got to meet my favorite Finn is a guy named Martin Mikos. He's
oh yeah, I know him very well. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. He you should talk to him. He'd be all over this. If you don't know him, I can intro.
Yeah, he knows me well as well. So
Okay,
yeah, I mean, I will definitely have a discussion now that you mention it. Like if he's working on this field. Currently.
Yeah, he's really into this stuff right now. So, and he was
Awesome.
I think he was the CEO at HackerOne. I might still be there. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he quit as a CEO. So. But yeah, he's an honorary consul of Finland in the Bay Area. I actually hanged out with him quite a few times when I was living in the Bay Area. So
yeah, really nice guy. Cool. This is so a couple comments. There's inevitably every agentic conversation ends with AGI, ASI, or some sort of singularity conversation, and the idea of AGI is this kind of all-knowing, all-encompassing AI that can solve all problems. And in my opinion, that isn't going to happen from a statically defined language model that sort of is responsive, right? And the challenges that we have is this perception that a lot of these models are sort of inherently smart, right? And can do and act. And none of these things, as we know from being agentic engineers, that requires guidance, like whether it's a swarm, operational sort of constructs. I think that the building blocks for AGI will emerge from the tools, like the swarm components you were seeing earlier, and how we sort of orchestrate and use those in a kind of feedback, a perpetual feedback probably. What are you thinking? What are you thinking in regards to like what AGI even looks like when you're describing this to a government or an organization?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, AGI, like how I explain it to them, is not like explaining like artificial consciousness or anything like this. It's just simply saying that AI can do anything that we can do, and and that's it. Like. Be it like a swarm of agents or be it like some kind of like a combination of tools and others. The thing is that the fact of what you guys are achieving already, and I'm also achieving similar things now, is that it's a testament of this AGI happening. Like literally, we can multiply. I mean, Proof, you have showed like multiple times like how many people's work we can now do with AI. I mean, that's literally explaining how the AGI is emerging.
Right.
So it's. Yeah.
Miko, public sector is great, but I think one of the underserved areas is the SMB sector. Because the problem with SMBs, they don't have enough money. They don't, I mean, now I'm helping one of the SMBs, but none of the big players really want to speak directly to them. So they are true resellers and others, right? But they are the backbone of the economy, to be honest. Yeah. I think there is a huge opportunity to actually engage them better through something similar, I think. Yeah. But
yeah, so the funny thing is that a lot of the problems for small entrepreneurs is coming from all the obstacles and government bureaucracies and other things that are making their lives hard, like in unnecessarily difficult ways. I'm actually working on multiple initiatives already with the government that are making it easier to be an entrepreneur in this country. So. I mean, a simple thing like, for example, automating the process of registering a company or doing filings and other things like completely. For some reason, we do have some parts of the government that are completely automated. One is taxation. I guess like anything that makes money for the government is instantly automated because it makes money faster for them. But when it comes to like supporting entrepreneurs, we have a filing time for a company. It's like about 3 to 4 weeks. Like you file a company, you get it registered in 3 to 4 weeks, and it costs like 370 euros to do like a limited company. And then Estonia does the same thing in 1 day and 50 bucks. So I mean, I see a lot of room for improvement. And the same thing is true with all the accounting, which is a small business benefiting thing. Like what if all the accounting was basically trivial or free for most of the entrepreneurs? It would take a lot of burden out of their necks. And and so that would be also helpful for the entrepreneurship in general.
In Canada, our equivalent, I think, is building permits, and the ability to actually build a house without getting crushed by massive, long, and expensive processes. Miko, I love that Finland has never wavered from the concept of the requirement of a social safety net. So I think you guys are in an incredible position to really illustrate around the world what it means to prepare for the arrival of AGI, considering that definition, that it's capable of doing the vast majority or all economically meaningful work. What are you optimistic that the public sector is going to become AI native?
Yeah, I mean, lots of people were skeptical when I started this. Like they said that this is impossible task. You can't convince these bastards to do anything meaningful. But at the end of the day, what happened was that we happened to have a perfect combination. I'm very well known in Finland myself as an AI hacker, and then my co-founder Janne, he's basically one of the most well-known public servants of the country. Before he started doing this with me. So now having this kind of star power that we have in the country, it's much easier for us to negotiate with the public sector decision makers. But also it requires them to learn that it's actually better to buy from a nimble company that it has a lot of AI, and behaves in an AI native way than doing these massive contracts with large corporations with thousands of employees, because they will take years and they will cost millions or tens of millions. And they will usually yield nothing useful eventually for the government. That's a simply ways of extracting money from the government. So our philosophy of doing this transformation is important here as well.
Miko, you're on the right path, because I just saw a reel not too long ago that London, England is actually, Robert, using AI to scan all the documents specifically for building permits, because they've got surveys in boxes that if you file something, it's like there's a water main that was laid 300 years ago, and they've got all the boundaries and all the registrations. So apparently London, England is already doing this. And also here in Canada, Miko, IRAP, so the Industry Research Association, they've got a couple of mega funds, and one of them specifically they repeatedly have going is the adoption of AI for SMBs. So they'll create a fund, and then they create incentives for consultants to actually help them adopt AI. So there are initiatives here in Canada that would actually dovetail to what you're doing. So
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we can export happiness to the world. The happiness is part of the thing that, and Finns are famous for that. We for some reason win this world happiness ranking every year, past 8 years. And I think it's partially because we learn to be content, and and this kind of contentment, and because everybody's taken care of, it leads into this kind of contentment and mental safety. So if we have AI, and let's say that we manage to build this Nordic welfare society model with AI, and we can export it to everything, and then we have basically all the government services available for technically free with no tax money needed. For everybody everywhere, and I think that's something that we should do. I mean, if we care about humans, I think that's the right thing to do.
Hey, Miko, I have a quick question for you. What do you feel like Agentics Foundation could do to help support that initiative, or what you're working on, other than obviously kind of having a platform for him to speak? Is there anything that you would wish that we as an organization would be able to do to help support someone like you in your position?
Yeah, I've been discussing, actually. We actually have members from the some of the government entities in Finland here, also in the Agentics already. I think there's a Teemu from Sitra here on basically listening to us right now, and we we've been discussing with Teemu that we could basically put together the two of us some kind of Agentics local entity that helps do this one thing which I have in this curve, which is helping the citizens become more AI capable, and and this is a very important part of this this educational aspect. How do you make people more AI capable? This part I think Agentics can help a lot with. I think right now, of course, we are kind of like a group of hackers who are pushing the boundaries, and so I think there's a lot of engineers who have very, let's say, high IQ and high technical capabilities. But how do we help like this to be spreading like large, like to the the society at large, and help everybody to be more on the bandwagon? That's a question that I don't have an answer to yet, but I think there's some kind of trickle down effect that we can probably induce.
All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour, which means we're going into our after-hour show where we lose some of our participants. Really appreciate you taking the time to show us and tell us about what you're working on. Love what you're doing. I had a whole variety of questions around UBI as well, which I'm sure is probably a hot topic as well. And I think the takeaway here is socialism isn't necessarily a dirty word that we sometimes are kind of conditioned to think that the only economic model is pure unadulterated capitalism. Not that I'm trying to sound like a communist or anything crazy, but I think we need to think about the future where we work in partnership with AI, and I guess that opens the question of what in the world does work even look like when AI is better at most knowledge working jobs? Not that I have an answer to that, but
but Rob, I don't think this is like from my perspective, like this is not socialism. It's basically like caring about others and building an infrastructure for helping people. And and if we do it with AI, then we don't have to have so high taxes either, because like the tax money is trying to fund this kind of system. But if we have AI to do it, like it's probably like much lower cost for us to run.
So from my point of view, it seems to me that AI represents a lot fewer people generating a lot more wealth. And the issue then is, how does the excess wealth get distributed? Do we have things like minimal income and everybody benefits, or does it go into the hands of a few and we get a ruler-based society? And that to me is the bottom line in all of this.
My story includes one slide that I didn't have time to show here, but it says that if we have AGI level technology in our hands and we still don't have we don't serve everybody in the society, the two things are true at the same time. We have technology that can solve all of our problems and we are in trouble. Why is that? Like it's a choice that we are making. Like we are making choice to be in trouble even if we don't have to. So I'm trying to bridge this gap, like to bring the technology to solve our problems, and then everybody can feel more safe and cared for in this environment.
I mean, most problems are already solvable today. Like this is just at another order of magnitude, right? But like we could redistribute resources in a certain way where everyone would eat nowadays. It's already happening. So I think, John, your point is extremely valid. And
agree.
I think this is a powerful initiative.
I was just wondering, for the initiative for like the small business owner and maybe government supporting the small business owners, is there anything that you've seen works, or what small business owners or consultants or people are looking for to even get started, like just taking that first step to understand what the heck's going on? Because like you said, everyone's so busy and they don't have the big resources like other ones. Is there anything that you're seeing works or people are interested in? I guess open to the whole group.
I think, I'll let someone else answer it. Yeah,
I can take a stab at. I mean, I think obviously it's the bandwidth and understanding that's the constraint. But what everyone cares about, everyone most probably have been through a cyber incident at some point in time. For me, I think the biggest entry point for raising that awareness and effectively making people understand and adopt is through that route. Effectively showing like how can we actually, like back to the point about the ethical hacking group, I think the ability to show that, look, you are exposed, but we can approach it in this way. I think that is the first step to making people realize what is Agentics AI and why it can be bad, but how its power can be leveraged as well. That's my, is it 2 cents perspective on this.
And in fairness, that's the entire purpose of the Agentics organization, is as a counterbalance to, I think, what John mentioned in this consolidation of both power, information, and wealth. And in essence, I really liked the original concept behind OpenAI circa like 10 years ago, where they said they were going to create an open organization dedicated to sort of stopping, a group of very wealthy, powerful companies and individuals from basically dominating the space. Ironically, they became the very thing they were founded to stop. I don't know. I don't know why that happened, but money corrupts, apparently.
It's
So
the same thing with Google, right? Google, their motto was "Don't be evil," and
yeah.
now
Does that mean as soon as we're successful, we'll be evil? Like, I hope not. Or I don't know. It's like it must be possible to do things with some level of altruism, or am I just kidding myself?
Please forgive me for interrupting your conversation.
Someone else will
but
be evil.
Please forgive me for interrupting your conversation. I probably should share my picture better than I do, but I look horrible, so I would just scare everyone. But what I think it is not that the money corrupts you so much, it's the preservation of what you have that corrupts you. So that when you have so little, you're not that concerned with preserving the status quo. But and I can only say this because I was born in Harlem, and I remember being a revolutionary. I was a Black Panther. I was a Black Muslim. I was a revolutionary. I wanted to change the system. And all of a sudden, when I got a job and I started making over six figures, I remember my brother telling me one day, I worked for IBM at the time. My brother told me one day, he said, you are the man now. And my politics changed. And I think what it is that, when you have so much that's entwined with what is, the way things are, to you, it seems the way things are just fine. Please forgive me for interrupting you.
No, that makes total sense. There's a couple terms, one that came back, I believe from the 90s, is the concept of techno capital, that as technology speeds up the cycle between the accumulation of capital and the growth of the power of the technology, ultimately lead to a singularity. And I think collectively, near universally, we want to avoid that kind of thing. The other term that it gets referenced as is a perpetual dictatorship, because in its darkest form, because if you have the ability of absolute artificial AGI or under the control of a single entity, that becomes really scary. I love the idea. We've got to get to the idea of there is a form of participation, economic participation, whether it's UBI, although I don't think it should be basic. I think that's an assumption we want to challenge, that there's great plenty in our future. There could be great plenty. And so I push back against the idea of a basic income or a minimal participation, because the one element I think that we sometimes miss or doesn't weigh in is that we all contributed to the data that allowed for science and capital to test the hypothesis that all you needed was scale. So all of our data went in by permission or not, right? And therefore, I think data is missing from the cap table, and universally, a dividend to individual humans around the planet might be one path that we explore.
And Martin, I think you want to pipe in there. I think we cut you off.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interject like that. I was saying that everyone recognizes the hazard of someone else being evil. Right? So if you're in a community, you go, oh, someone here could really take all the power. But if you're the person who made it to the top, it's a hazard, right? Because you set a constitution, like any founder of like in government, say, oh, let's not do evil. But the temptation that once you're there is like, well, I'm the best person to look after this. And I think that Altman and etc. They recognize the hazards, but once they're in power, they want to stay there.
So guys, I can show you something a little more altruistic or practical. So you guys know that I've been working on Varai for a while. And one of the things in terms of what Miko was talking about, in terms of like how you can use AI for social good, my investor Unity Labs has been pushing me. So I've actually used the Agentic platform, and I now have a full example of a SaaS platform for managing an eyewear practice because it is so horribly bad if you are in North America. And one of the things, if you go, I kind of feel good about this startup because the World Health Organization says there are 4 billion people on the planet in need of eyewear or like eye care in general, right? And you basically have like the first world where we spend a lot of money on our frames and it's covered by insurance. And then you have like the third world where you basically don't have opticians, ophthalmologists, limited access to hardware and glasses and whatever. And when companies like Luxottica have an overrun of their frames, they donate them out of charity. So I do think that when it comes to things like AI, there are things like business, like really sucky things with respect to the government that you can automate and streamline. I don't think that the Public Service Alliance of Canada will like that idea, but maybe they can, be retrained to do other things that actually add value. But on the platform that I just finished, I now have the ability to help optimize the practice using AI, looking at the bookings, using the windows, and I actually built, and I'm sharing the wrong window, but I actually built connections to publicly available repos for medical research on AI. So it's like on Hugging Face and other places. So if you're not the Mayo Clinic, this massive organization in the US that like has all of this control over the market, right, in terms of like research, there's basic practice management, patient management, optimization. But part of my roadmap is to say, hey, where are these publicly available APIs and libraries, and how can we create software to empower diagnostics, not just for the first world, but if I release the SaaS platform, and the data that's being trained on these AI models around diagnosis, right? And being able to get a diagnosis over your phone using AI to do different kind of eye diagnostics, you can actually do good in serving a specific vertical or group that way. So I'm very close to being able to publish this. And hopefully by September, this launches in like North America, but the idea is that all the intelligence that we're building the platform can be used in other markets for other people.
I like it. I love the concept. Anything that's
Nice.
I have a soft spot for trying to empower and improve the lives of people indirectly who don't even know this technology exists.
Yeah, I was just recently talking to a lawyer and a few medical offices, small practices that have all this documentation they have to manage daily. They only have a handful of people to do this work. One has taken on, a licensed attorney has literally taken on himself to learn all this stuff that we know, and has already made a 90% efficiency in his own law firm. And so there are at least 4 or 5 verticals I could think of right now that are old school. Manufacturing is one of them. They are so old school. They do not want to modernize, but yet they have so many processes that need to be modernized. Steel Incorporated is one of those. They're just a behemoth of an industry that's been around for decades, that has so many old school processes and really needs to be brought up to speed. Tools like NAN that have built-in agents and workflows are easy for these individuals to get up to speed on. Consultancy is where I think it could come from, is where we can prompt engineer them into a better workflow, help them see how these tools can be tied together, and set those things up and go, here you go. Here's your custom workflow for your company. Here's how you can make yourself more efficient. And I'm already seeing it here locally, just in St. Pete, Florida.
Nice.
Please forgive me for interjecting. I'm sorry. You were talking. I'll listen.
I'm building an application using Claude and some of the tools that Ruve has come out with for lawyers. I'm a retired lawyer, and I'm probably a lot older than most of you. I'm 82 years old. So I'm going to be presenting that next week to about 250 lawyers. I've just about got it done in terms of the test environment. So I'd like to show it to you all next week or the week after, because I think it may give some insight from somebody who has content experience over many years of the content area as to what's needed. Because the question is, what's needed? And the people who are doing the work don't really understand what the contribution can be. And the people who have the tools don't really understand what the tools need to be applied to. And I think we can do a good job if we can understand what we need to do to begin to open a conversation to answer those questions, so that there's a connection between the people who need the tool and the people who can provide the tool.
I just have to say this very quickly, and please forgive me. I feel like I'm the representative of the underprivileged in the room. But again, coming from my neighborhood where I came from, I don't know how many of you are aware of this thing. It's called Make Wakanda Real. Have any of you ever heard of that?
Nope.
So there's Will I Am, who's a rap singer, and he has this movement called Make Wakanda Real. So the answer to what at least we believe needs to be done is, I don't know any of you that's ever heard of the Rucker tournament in New York. It's a basketball tournament in New York that my uncle is famous for. He started it. So what we believe is each one teach one. And with Make Wakanda Real, what we're trying to do is meet people that are in underprivileged environments. And when I speak underprivileged, I include the people of West Virginia, because I've been to West Virginia and I thought I was underprivileged in Harlem until I met a white guy from West Virginia. And I realized, oh, wow, it's not just us. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have the basic things they need in our country. So what Make Wakanda Real is trying to do is get everyone at least interested in the basic concepts of AI. And one methodology of doing that is there are so many free, fundamental, introductory AI courses that are out there that people are not taking advantage of. Like, for instance, AI 900. You know, you can get a certification. My dog could pass the certification, but at least it gets you where you're intelligent about the words that there are in AI. So I think the start for most people is not necessarily exposing them to tools, but exposing them to the fundamentals. And what I found for my students is that when I get them that first certification, it's like, you know, first one's free on the streets. You know, you get the first one and you're hooked from that point forward.
Well, I love what you guys are saying, and just to John's earlier comment as well. You know, if you're looking for some peer review before you're going to give your presentation, you want some insights, some tweaks, whatever. You know, our crew are always happy to give constructive feedback. You know, just shoot it to the group. Join our Martin's done a really good job of managing that Discord for us, discord.agentics.org. And to Dennis, to your point, yeah, we have anything we can do to support some of your endeavors, you know, the philanthropic sort of, you know, elements. Conceptually, I love that idea. You know, let's use our newfound powers for good.
Thank you,
Why not?
sir.
Yeah, it makes
Love
sense
that.
to me.
Love that.
Yeah. So we're running out of time here. You know, it's been another crazy week. They're always crazy. You know, if anyone wants to present something, you know, reach out to Rob or the team here. We love to see your work. Our crew in New York, sorry about the presentation, but if you want to show it next week, you know, obviously we want to hear your tunage. You know, or if you got it working, you can pipe and show it now. If we got a couple more minutes before I got to hop. Otherwise, we're in the last moments. Anything else anyone wants to share, tell? Make sure add your LinkedIn if you haven't already. We represent ourselves with our little infinity icon on LinkedIn. I try to like or follow anyone I see that has that on their on their posts. So it gives me a little visual indicator that we're sharing our alignments or feedback loops anyway. All right. Rob, any
Is there an official image?
Oh, we use the emoji.
Gotcha.
We co-opted the infinity logo. I know it's a little weird, but it's good. It's good. It's good marketing. And basically what we do is we slap that in our little profile, and so if you do that, you can just copy and paste that if you want. And that sort of shows affiliation. The other thing that we do, if you're a member of our group, even if it's just, a supporter, you can add yourself as I think it's like an employee of the organization, and then you show up in there, and then you can see what other people are posting, and it creates a nice little kind of community element and brings awareness to our organization.
Yeah, which is neat on LinkedIn. And you can rearrange the order so it's not looking like you changed, like you don't work at where you work anymore. You can lower it down, but it's a neat thing. And as well too, Ruben, like when you're done that presentation, we'd love to have you and hear it as well, and you as well, Dennis, as that gets momentum. Brad, quick little update on membership. I guess is the site set to at least test live next week. This is the new members site, right? Where we'll be able to get all kinds of content and those free courses, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll give a proper update next Friday I'll remind you to try and get on the schedule. But thanks to all the donors so far, it's keeping the lights on. We're going through updating the site. We'll have a sneak peek on Toronto Tech Week. For us, lots of things for learning-centric events, committees, ways to get involved. We got a whole crew of people helping right now, so we're looking to at least have something that we can glance at early next week, and then we'll be taking our time to make sure we implement it properly. But again, thank you to everyone that keeps the lights on, and everyone that's a member right now. We'll be migrating you over to the latest and greatest, and hopefully lots of things there for you.
Is there a governance section of people who are interested in foundational documents? Because in U.S. law, if you're a nonprofit, people who give you money can get a tax deduction. So that might be a funding source that if you had the proper documentation as the umbrella of the organization could give benefits to the members. And if Anthropic ever goes back to its old billing rules, that people might be able to, who are members, might be able to get the discount that was discussed about a month ago when the billing rates were much higher, and those kinds of things, because it might be useful to start looking at those sorts of things to get more advantages for the organization. I've got some legal skills, they're pretty rusty, and I'm not allowed to practice law, but I don't have to do that just to look over documents as a member of an organization.
I love it, John.
Yep.
We'll reach out. Certainly, we've done the registration because we are a not-for-profit. We've done registration with technical organizations that give discounts to software, and we have been rolling that out. But you're right, there are some constitutional things that I think would benefit from your professional experience. So we'll reach out.
So just as an FYI, we're currently incorporated as a Canadian not-for-profit. As we grow, we'll likely have to explore what that means in other jurisdictions that we need to operate within. The most likely being our friends to the south. We did Canada because the core crew of us are basically Canadian and it was easy. But as we sort of get more organized, we're probably going to have to figure out how we can collaborate with the larger tech companies, and that likely means a not-for-profit in the US and a separate charter foundation, something that addresses the IRS requirements. We haven't figured that out yet.
Yep.
We're very organic.
All in time.
Yeah, we're just a group of folks that are volunteering our time. You know, we have there's no financial incentives here other than have a shared passion for this tech.
Amazing.
All right, and is that it? Anybody else anybody else wants to bring up? I know I see Chris Royce, our favorite neighborhood viber. Any,
Hey, buddy.
yeah, what have you been building?
Well, I've been trying to optimize Fairmind, but Ruben, essentially what it is I took Spark, right? And then I was seeing you with Spark doing amazing things, right? So I was like, okay, so Ruben is orchestrating or managing all these workers. So, you know, and he's walking it through the Spark process. So I was like, okay, so Fairmind essentially, let me replace Ruben with like 10 orchestrators, right? And I'm like, okay, now I got these orchestrators, they orchestrate out the whole Spark process, like, or the development process, like end to end. It's like, that's cool. What do I need now to make this better? I need to put Reuven back in the loop, right? But instead of having, say, Reuven as, say, the manager of the workers, I now have him as the CEO, the manager of the managers, right? And so that's essentially what I've been messing with lately, is figuring out how to best put the human back in the loop to make the system align best with user intent. And that's been a lot of fun. But
it's the same problem I was addressing earlier when I said that when I do a 50 agent swarm, I sometimes lose the ability to understand what each of the agents are actually doing during that process. So you're trying to add the kind of introspection as part of that. It's
yeah,
useful.
with like goal clarification steps, mutual understanding documents, and then like anytime that you tell the AI something, it has like a separate database that stores all your ideas so that it's more aligns with your focus, so it doesn't ever go back and do stuff you told it not to do before again, type of things like that.
That's really interesting, because you think about big organizations and how they do that right now. You know, they're typically in one of these enormous collaboration suites, right? So that's actually where they would expect to see those sorts of conversations, and that's actually where the existing humans, whether it be senior manager or CEOs and what have you, would expect to collaborate with a mixed team of system actors and human actors working together, and indeed where the interface points currently already are. Like people would, you know, whether it's Microsoft, the Microsoft Azure platform, or obviously Atlassian or an IBM thing, they would expect to see them in large-scale collaboration suites. So maybe we can service some of your what I imagine are inside sort of data structures and MD files into one of those enterprise systems. That would get attention.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we got to jump. Anyone that's in Toronto next week and that wants to go to the event, you know, there's a massive wait list, but obviously you know us, so if you want in, just ping one of us. Show up early if you're going to go to that event. And good luck, Vincent and crew, in Paris next week. If you need any help, you know, promoting that, let me know. I posted at a few places. You might want to post it on the AI prompt programming subreddit. The thing does pretty crazy. I'm almost at 90,000 subs and millions of views anyway. So that if you want if you want the Reddit crew, you'll get them on there. And I'm obviously the creator, so I can make sure it gets seen.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Till next time. And again, Thursdays we also do live coding, creating crazy things. I'm not even sure what I'll create next week, but I'm sure it'll be nuts. And and oh, we've also are putting together a production team for this. So we're trying to get a little less Wayne's World and a little more organized as we go forward. So we're going to be putting together a much more polished version of this, with Rob and Kelsey and Nick and the rest of the crew helping sort of put this together. So that'll probably be a few weeks off. But if anyone, again, this is a volunteer org. So if there's something you're interested in helping with, whether it's legal or producing podcasts or whatever, reach out. I'm sure there's a spot for you.
VO3 video intro submissions, right, Roof?
Yeah, exactly.
We have 50 of them, and let's see.
Yeah. Let's see who creates the coolest one, or maybe we'll get Willie and the crew to create the musical interlude song, or that sounds like the Intel chimes or something. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rick.
Good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.